Have you ever found it hard to forgive someone? Have you forgiven the same person over and over again? How did that feel? In this week's Bible story, one of Jesus' disciples, a man named Peter, comes to Jesus with an important question about forgiveness. If somebody does something mean to me, he asked, how many times do I have to forgive them? Is 7 times enough? To answer Peter's question, Jesus tells him a parable. A parable is a short story that teaches a lesson. Here's the story Jesus tells. Once upon a time, there was a king who had many servants. Sometimes those servants borrowed money from the king. One day, the king decided that he wanted all the servants who owed him money to pay the money back. As the king looked at his list of servants who needed to repay him, he came across one servant who owed him so much money it was shocking. The servant had borrowed millions and millions of dollars, enough money to buy pretty much anything in the world. The king called that servant into his house and said, "You owe me lots and lots of money. I would like you to please pay the money back." But the servant had a terrible problem. He didn't have the money to pay the king back. He had spent it all. He knew that he was in deep trouble. Even if he worked and worked and worked every day for the rest of his life, he would never be able to pay back such a huge debt. So the servant knelt down in front of the king and said, "Please be patient with me. Please don't send me and my family to jail. I know that I borrowed too much from you. Please give me more time to pay back what I owe you." When the king saw how sad and scared and hopeless the servant was, the king felt sorry for him and decided to be kind and forgiving. "Don't worry about it," the king said. "Don't be afraid. I am canceling your whole debt. That means you don't owe me anything anymore. Not even a penny. Be at peace and go home to your family." The servant couldn't believe his luck. He was free. He quickly got up and started for home. He couldn't wait to tell his family this amazing news. But just then, something awful happened. On his way home, he came across another servant who owed him a teeny bit of money. He grabbed that servant around the neck and began to choke him. "Pay back every penny you owe me," he yelled. "Pay it back right now." The servant who owed the money fell to his knees and said, "Please be patient with me. I will work hard and pay you back soon, I promise. Please just give me a little more time." But the servant didn't listen. He grabbed the man who owed him money and threw him into jail. "You will stay in here until you pay me back every last cent," he said. And then he stomped away. Soon, all the people in town heard what had happened, and they were very upset. So they went to the king and told him the whole story. So the king called the servant in. "What have you done?" the king asked. "I canceled all the millions of dollars you owed me because you begged me to. I was kind to you and showed mercy to you and forgave you. Why didn't you treat the other servant the same way? Why were you so unkind and unforgiving to him? How could you be so cruel?" Then the king sent the unkind servant to jail for treating his fellow servants so terribly. After Jesus told Peter the story, Peter understood that God wants us to forgive others just like God forgives us. Because God is kind and merciful to us, we should be kind and merciful to others, even when they do something mean and it's hard to forgive them. It's not enough to forgive just 7 times, Jesus told Peter. We must ask God for help to forgive again and again, just like God so generously forgives us. Why do you think Jesus told Peter the story of the king and the 2 servants? What did Jesus want Peter to understand? What is forgiveness? What does it mean to forgive someone? Can you think of a time when someone forgave you? What did it feel like to be forgiven?